Alright guys, good morning or good afternoon or whenever you're watching this video. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad you're here. We're going to spend a day in the automotive repair shop, making it work. I'm Jimmy. Transmission into the GMC Envoy, and there's something different wrong with this one. The other one had a slipping and over temp code. I never felt anything wrong with the way it drove, but apparently after you drove it a long time, it did that. So we put another transmission in, and now it shifts really late and mushy into second, and really late and mushy into third. Then it shifts a little harder into the last gear. So, no, it doesn't set any codes. Something wrong with that. So we may have to put another transmission in, we'll see. We may just send the whole truck up to the transmission place, let them look at it. I tried adding another half a quart of fluid just to see if anything would happen. No effect on line pressure, any of that kind of thing. I'm gonna get in there. We're waiting on parts too, the axle for the Captiva. Waiting on the inner axle for that. You can't get just the aluminum housing, so they had to order the whole inner axle piece. I just row on my boat here. I'm thinking about buying like, I have like a 17-foot rowboat that I'm rowing normally. I'm gonna put like 450 horse Mercs on it. The banjos are getting louder and louder, and I think those things are gigantic because they got a lot of bass. Let's get to it. Stay tuned, it should be fun, or at least interesting. Alright, first thing first, get in this thing and see what the temp sensors say, see if they agree. Please check if there are any other OBD communication components installed on the vehicle. Remove it if yes, and then perform a diagnosis. That's add-on stuff like tuners and stuff from insurance companies to track your driving habits. They cause all kinds of problems. Some of you guys might know that, but don't put those things on your car. Because all they're going to do normally is raise your rates, because no one ever really meets the standards. You'd have to drive like an 80-year-old lady. Thermostat rationality stored. Let's go back here, read the data stream, bring up some temperatures, and we'll see what we get. Okie dokie, we got ambient temp 62.6, engine coolant temp about 61 degrees. So we're good on those. What I can do real quick is just go out and try wiggling the temp sensor connectors and stuff, but it's not going to show me any big problems, because if they had a problem with a circuit connection, you'd have some kind of coolant temp circuit code. This is a 2017, so it's got fairly modern capabilities, not like the old days when you had to do a lot more dancing in circles. These are pretty good about all kinds of codes for rationality and circuits and stuff like that. So this thing needs a thermostat. He wanted me to verify it this morning. Now we did. Let's head up front. Hood shocks even work. 2012 Chrysler 300. Another money maker. Make a fortune on these things. This is basically the 300, 300C, etc. I think the C is the V8 version. Lots of suspension problems on these cars, cooling system problems, water pumps, timing chains, all the normal stuff. A lot of noises I get with these cars, clunks and pops and bangs and stuff. Drag link arms and all kinds of weird stuff. But of course it is going on a trip. Complaining about some noises, check engine light on, TPMS light on. So let's get to it. Oh, you want a love rating? It's actually in pretty good shape. Just needs a little vacuum job. I'm gonna say it's a 6. You vacuum this thing and be a 7. Not in bad shape at all. What's the mileage, you might ask? Well, let me show you. 95,773. There's one of the complaints right there. It's an actuator right down here. That should be an easy one. I'm gonna get the scanner on it. Let's see what the TPMS and the check engine light codes are, and then we'll verify which actuator is making the noise. One of the things you can do is start it up, change the mode door, bet you it has a code for the recirc actuator. Turn off the defroster. Turn off the AC. Recirc. It's blinking the light, so it's not happy about something with that. Alright, let's get the scanner on. Alright, we got transmission inhibited remote start. It's a history code stored. This could be anything like it was tried to start in gear or anything strange like that. Voltage below threshold. We'll have to take a look at the battery. Anytime I see any voltage related codes, you should really test the battery every time. But every once in a while, I'll do all this first and then go test the battery, which is what we're going to end up doing. Humidity sensor module active. Low tire pressure, so the tires need to be checked, and it has sensor codes. Internal failure, tire pressure sensor location undetermined, sensor 3, component internal failure. Battery voltage code again, driver's door module. Master switch, left front, battery voltage code again, and a USB COM code. Okay. So, it's definitely got some bad TPMS sensors, a clack and an actuator, but there was no PCM codes. I thought they said the check engine light was on. Maybe I misunderstood them up front. I'll have to go look at my notes again on the ticket. We'll take a look underneath this car and get a peek at the brakes, and we'll start writing the list. It's in pretty good shape so far underneath. 35 psi, just in case they decline the tires and the TPMS sensors, because you know they're not going to cancel the trip. They might cancel repairs. We'll at least send them down the road with aired up tires. I'm going to go ahead and use my Pittsburgh ratchet, my crescent extension, to get a spark plug out of here and have a look, see if they're original. I wouldn't be surprised if they are. It's not 100,000 miles according to the odometer yet, but I'm getting a conflicting reading in my scan data, but I'm assuming it might be kilometers because it says 154,000. I haven't looked into that yet. I think this person's the original owner, so it's probably not the case. It's probably kilometers. Nothing to be concerned about. Some people don't realize the cluster shows you gas mileage, so it shows you the vehicle's mileage, and the PCM records the vehicle's mileage along with some of the other modules. So the mileage is in several modules. Because I've had people ask me, I'm going to trade my car in, can you change my instrument cluster so my mileage is lower? I'm like, well, it doesn't work that way. They can still figure out how many miles you have. Not to mention your mileage is reported every time you get the service done. These look like original champions. And the ground electrode is worn pretty good. I don't know if you can see that. How about that? Can you see that? Not terrible, but could use a set of plugs. Pretty expensive on this car. You got to take the intake off to do the driver's side plugs. So, we'll put that on the list too. Uh-oh. 2006 Jeep Commander. This thing is a cream puff. Oh, I didn't do that. Who's got grease prints in the door panel? Someone's already been playing with it. It almost looks like a new switch assembly. He's not worried about the check engine light or the fact that the turn signals stay on, so he's got a shoestring around. If you just touch it, the turn signal stays on. You gotta touch it up, and it goes out. No, we're not looking at that. What we're looking at is the windows don't work from the master switch. But they do work from the individual switches. That's the good news. So we're going to get a wiring diagram. I think that, yeah, the left rear works on the master switch, so we know the master switch is getting power and ground. The cancel button would make it so it didn't work from the individual switches. It should still work from the master, but there's definitely, they feel a little crunchy too. Only the left rear works. So let's get a wiring diagram for this thing. 138,803 miles. I don't think I told you guys that, did I? And we're going to give it a love rating. And it's actually very clean inside. A couple of little cigarette burns or a little bit of the Mary Jane, whatever. But it gets points docked for having a shoestring on your turn signal to keep it from blinking. So I'm gonna give it a 5 based on the cleanliness, and the vehicle's a 2006, pretty old. But I would have given it a 6 or 7 if it wasn't for that. That's and that. So let's stop horsing around, grab a wiring diagram, and see if we can fix his windows for him at least, so the master switch works. I'm gonna clean those fingerprints off so I don't get blamed for them too. But I didn't do it. Came right off of there. What's the big deal? I couldn't get the key out to turn off either, but then I noticed push and turn. That's interesting. It also didn't crank. I don't know if I mentioned that, but when I first got in it wouldn't crank until I tried it 5 or 6 times. So it's got issues. All right, focus, Windows, Jimmy. All right, one of the things that a lot of people having problems with on these things is the door jamb wiring. So what I'm going to do is try to work the switches while I jiggle that. We'll see if that'll do something for us. Worst case scenario, you got to open all this up, which I think you might have to do some cutting or prying or something like that. But first we'll see if we can get anything to happen so I know I'm going in the right direction. Problem is, if a wire's completely broken, it's hard to get good contact. Sometimes even if a couple wires break, it'll blow a fuse, but then the window shouldn't work from the other switches. So, all right. I'm gonna have to open this up. I might need permission to do that, so we'll see what happens with that. All right. They said, go for it, Jimmy. You got a 1-hour approval. That's what we're doing. We're going for it. Ah. Oh, I already found a broken wire. Oh, look at them all. See all the broken wires? There you go, boom. I bet you if we fix all the wires, we'll have windows working from the driver's switch. Now, the repairs, I definitely have to get some extra time for. So let's go see what they want to do with that. Well, that's a lot of Chryslers I worked on in a row. So I told them up front, I said, listen, I need like a GM to work on or something else. I can't work on Chryslers all day. I'm not a Chrysler tech. And they said, okay, how about some brakes on a Holden? I said, what? The guy imported it from Australia. He says it's super rare. Rotors and pads. So we come back in a second. I'm going to go ahead and switch all these vehicles really quick. And there'll be a police car here, a Holden police car. Just got to snap my fingers. Told you. Holden police car. It's a Chevy Caprice. That's what they call it in Australia. To me, it looks like a Chevy Impala. Nothing special about it. Caprice. Got cop brakes, cop suspension, cop motor. Got a cop light. Got no console shifter. It's got a steering column shifter. Kind of unusual. 114,103 miles. Very clean inside. Very clean inside. I'm going to give this a 7. I think this is for where you can mount your laptops and all your other gizmos and stuff. So anyway, enough about that. Let's go ahead and get some brakes on this thing. Of course, we're assuming the brake parts are going to be right. It's probably just Chevy Impala brake parts, I would guess, right? What do you guys think the odds are? If I can get the hood open. Sorry, we can't work on your car. I can't get the hood open. My bad. Ah, there it is. A little sticky. Just got to play with it a little bit. Got a little stick action. Maybe I'll lubricate that for him. What do you think? Oh, now I see why he was saying it was so rare. It's rear-wheel drive. I wasn't expecting that. The engine's pointing the right way. I mean, if you like rear-wheel drive vehicles, that's the right way, I guess. A friend of mine had an 07 SS Impala with a 5.3, but it was sideways, front-wheel drive. This one is rear-wheel drive. Wow. Okay. Next. Perfect. before those rascals put my two nuts. I'm gonna move my tool cart back a little bit, just because I had a close call, and show you guys. Yeah. Trying to get in between my cars, like, what? I'm like, what the heck just brushed my cheek? A big steel bracket I didn't see sticking out of a black bumper. This hole is much bigger than this one. Someone made a mistake when our guesstimate when they made them, I guess. Let me go check on my parts. Should be quick and easy brake job, right? Rotors and pads, boom. 14s on the calipers. Come on off of there, you rascal. Should be nicer. Oh, gravity check. He wasn't a rascal at all. It came right off. No big deal. I did drop one of my nuts. Well, technically it's a bolt. All right, now. I'll be like that. Let's get a little grip here. A little grip action. I got a rib right in the way. That's the problem. That's what Eve said to Adam. Alright. That'll work. No, huh? Okay. I hear you. There you go. It was glued. The opposite of lubricating the pads, they glued them to the caliper. That's cop stuff. Australian police cars. They do weird things. Oh, there's the noise they were hearing. I really take a little sense of pride when we sell brakes, and I go to do them. Someone else sold them, and they actually need them. It makes me very happy. Wait till you see the parts we got for this thing. We got some quality rotors and pads. It says platinum right on the box. Man, these look like the right pads. Let's get these boxes open, see what those look like. Got big giant cop rotors, but it don't have dual piston calipers or anything. Like I would have hoped it had Corvette calipers or something crazy. Nah, just a single piston caliper like on an S10. But the big giant rotors help though. The bigger the rotor is, the more leverage the pads have on it. So kind of like a breaker bar, long handle versus short handle. Same thing with a brake rotor. I went ahead and cut this open ahead of time, but I have not opened it. We're going to open it together because we all want to see what a CarQuest Platinum rotor shield rotor looks like. If it looks anything like the picture on the box, oh my goodness. Look at this. Wow. This car's going to stop on a dime and give you 9 cents change. See if the little mid-torque can loosen cop bolts. Nope. That makes me a little sad. Alright, now we got the big one. I hope I'm not disappointed again like last time. There you go. My goodness. They don't play around with cop stuff. Now the idea is not to make these look brand new. I see a lot of people using grinders on them and all kinds of crazy stuff. Removing metal, probably not a good idea. If it's a little rusty, you can do a tiny bit of filing and sanding. But if you remove a bunch of metal, the pads are going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Could invite noise and things like that. Wouldn't be a safety issue so much, but I would replace them if they were that bad. I'm going to grease this up, but it comes with some high-end synthetic grease. I'm going to use it because the pads came with it anyway. Might as well. Now you don't need to overdo it. This stuff is a little bit odd, but it works well. Sometimes it can get a little pasty. Put a little bit under the bracket and a little bit over the bracket. Doesn't take much, especially for under the bracket. these teeth in the top are what actually holds it in place the most, as well as clipping onto these ears. This one's not quite bent correctly, so we'll have to make a little tweak on that one, that's all. It's getting a little sloppy. Uh-oh. Alright, red dots to the inside, blue dots to the outside. Now I am not going to glue the caliper to the pads. I am going to lubricate the point between the caliper and the pads. Just how I roll. I'm not a cop though, so you know. Always check to make sure your hose isn't looped. It's hard on the brake hose if you do that, especially when they're steering and all that kind of thing.
Did you work on the Commander?
Yeah. Keys are on my cart. It's all back together. These heavy steelies are heavy. They're heavy duty wheels. I think they're actually a little thicker than a regular wheel is. Just for cop stuff. They're truck nuts too, 22 millimeter, 7/8, whatever you prefer. I'm not gonna get my feelings hurt over that. Some people do though. It's the internet, you know. And for the sake of redundancy, this side's gonna go way faster. Gravity check. Three Ugga-Duggas. All right, time to go bust some perps. Cop motor. Heck yeah. Seat these brakes real nice. See what's next. Oh yeah. Oh, there it is. I was like, where's the O-ring? That'd be terrible to install it and think the O-ring was in it. Not that that would ever happen, but it's possible. As you guys have seen, thermostat is way down there. Well, I shouldn't say way. It's about a foot away from the camera. It doesn't look like it though, does it? Pop the air box out. Should be easy after that. On clamper doodle. 113. That wasn't very tight, but it goes to plastic, so that's okay. We'll let it slide. I already popped that off, FYI. It wasn't off before. I smell plastic burning. That makes me nervous. Oh, the guy with the Jeep Commander, he left with his hair on fire. What? How much? You can fix that in 10 minutes. Give me a break. Well, now I understand why there's shoestring on his turn signal, so. We didn't see that coming. You know what I'll do? I'll pop the lid off, see if there's a screw inside. Careful, because you're decent shape. It's just some stub-worn rubber. Well, you know what helps with rubber? Deep creep. See? Told you. A little bit of deep creep. Stuff's like magic. No, they are not a sponsor of the channel. But I will entertain any and all offers from them. Ah, look at this thing. There you go. Now it should come out. What are the odds of that? I don't know. That's pretty funny. I'm gonna get a bungee cord just to hold this out of my way. This seems like the right thing to do. So I don't have to sit there holding it. Come on now, there you go. I should be able to get this to come off of here and leave my clamp sprung. I got a drip pan under there on the floor. That'll probably catch 90% of it. She's squeaky. 210s. Should be easy according to the appearance. Sometimes you'll physically see it stuck open a little bit, and sometimes the coolant flow pushes it open because the spring's not good anymore. And we'll see how this aftermarket replacement one works. Make sure there's no material on this gasket surface. I'm getting a little coolant on the belt, but I'll go ahead and hose all that off before I fire it up. Make sure all the coolant's off. And get these 210s started. I'm not going to tighten anything until they're both in there. Because it's plastic. Well, even for an aluminum housing, I wouldn't tighten one bolt too far until I've got the other one close too. Just because things get kind of crazy and just crack it. And you wouldn't know till it comes back leaking a week later. Come on. I find that if I were to relax that clamp, then I just got to fight to get my tool back on it. Something that's easy to get to, it's just I do it that way. I'm going to break this bleeder loose, fill the cooling system till coolant runs out of it again, pop the air box on, and clear the code. New car. Try to get all that coolant off the belt, the pulleys, and stuff like that. Pour a little extra in there just for good measure, and when you think you're done, a little bit more. Don't fight it. You're getting new coolant whether you want it or not. This is our Chameleon if you haven't seen my other videos. It's extended life coolant, and it blends into whatever color coolant is in the system. Now if you empty it 100% out, it probably stays a goldish green color, but it is the correct chemical makeup compatible with almost all coolants. I guess you can see the bleeder screw there. It's doing its number. So I know we got most of the air out of there. It's a little hard to get to with the air box in, so I do it before putting it all together, but you can get in there with a screwdriver with the air box back in. So I may have to bleed it again one more time. We'll see what happens. I'll turn on the heat, turn off the air conditioning, and let it run till the fan cycles, check for warm air off the fan and warm air off the heater. Then I know I have to have the majority, if not all, air out of it. Get this air box back together. We can fire this thing up. Look at this thing, huh? 2017. It's a 2023 car now. Maybe not. Maybe that's a slight exaggeration. Although this car's in pretty good shape. It's not like that Jeep that I was working on. You guys, there's the bleeder, so you can see how you can get to that bleeder. But I had it apart already. Might as well. Go in here. Oh, you know what? It's gonna make me shut it off to clear the codes. You sons of guns. I gotta warm it up. And I definitely gotta clear them. So we'll have to shut it off, right? Watch. Shut it off, dummy. Off. Back on. No engine though. Okay. Code clear completed. Now let's read it again just to make sure. No DTCs. I like, oh, Christmas bonus. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous. Alright, I'm going to take this thing for a drive. Make sure I got hot air coming off everything. And make sure the code don't reset. You got to run it till the monitor sets. Which means it went ahead and checked for that kind of a problem. And doesn't see an issue. And we'll be good. Alright, this thing's running like a champ. Temp gauge dead center. We got good heat, warm air off the radiator. So I'm going to go ahead and park it over here behind the Captiva. We're still waiting on an inner axle. I think it's supposed to come when I'm off on Thursday or Friday. I might run up to the shop at night and pop it in real quick so the customer can get it back and doesn't have to wait till I come back on Monday. But we'll see what happens with that. But this one's done. Once it cools off, like I said, like I think I might have said already, once it cools off, I'm going to double check the coolant level, make sure it's 100%. Let's see what's next. 2012 Buick Enclave. Uh-oh, I just unlocked it. Or maybe I locked it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll figure it out as I go. You might remember this car, and you might not. I don't know. They said they had a slight misfire on easy acceleration. We put coils and plugs in it, I think a few months ago. It's definitely running like crap. So I'm guessing we probably have a defective coil. Chinese kids are slipping. It might have Japanese coils. I'm not sure what we put in this last time. But it's almost lunchtime, and we're knocking out a bunch of repairs today. This is like, I think, what, my 5th car today or something? Of course, like 3 of them left with their hair on fire. We're going to get this up to the bay. I'm using the outside because I don't have parts for that Captiva. I'm going to get the scanner on it, try to see if I can figure out which cylinder's misfiring. I can feel something, even like maybe a vacuum leak. But we'll know soon enough. See if I can get a quick look at it before I go get something to eat. I have a bad habit of not eating any breakfast, so lunch is the first thing I've eaten all day most of the time. Unless I'm lucky on the weekends, my wife cooks me breakfast. She takes good care of me. Anyway, let's grab the scanner and see what's going on with this thing. It's running a little better now, but you can see the tack bouncing. There's definitely a little something going on. Well, as far as the cleanliness rating, this is in nice shape. You know, I was saying a month or 2 ago, but it seems more familiar than that. I remember the nice dashboard. Maybe it was a few weeks ago. Anyway, we'll do a smart scan and we'll give it a love rating in the meantime. No ECM codes. Uh-oh. Hey, this thing's actually really clean. I'm gonna give this thing a 7. It hardly even needs to be vacuumed, just very slightly, which that's about how my truck normally is. You can't vacuum your vehicle every day, right? Once every couple of weeks or so. No codes makes it a little more interesting to figure out. But I can bring up my misfire screen. Sometimes if it's only getting a couple misfires here and there, you'll feel it, but it won't flag a code unless there's a certain amount of them over a certain period of time. So I'll bring up the misfire screen and we'll see what we see. I'm going to go into actuation test, misfire graphic. And I'm going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could just pick all, huh? Nah, I'll just do the 6 cylinders. How about that? Graph. It's not going to let me combine them because it'll only let me have 4 lines. I definitely don't feel any. We'll bring the RPM up just a little bit. See if we get any misfires. If you haven't seen some of my other videos, I always like to use the graphing component. Only because if there's a bump in there, if you're looking at lines of data and there's a little bump, you may not catch it. So the graph was going to show you that bump, and this is at least a 2 or 3 minute screen. Matter of fact, maybe it's a minute. Yeah, 1 minute. So I thought it was longer than that, but it's a 1 minute screen. You can change the length of that as well too, but it shows you more defined data. The less time you save the more defined the changes would be, and the more time you save, the less defined. Similar to the way a scope works, actually, except this is processing data, and a good scope shows you the closest thing to real-time data. The better the scope is, the closer to real-time. Whoop, something happened on cylinder 3. We'll put this thing in gear, see if we can do a little power brake action, lay a little wheel. Oh, the hood shocks are bad too. I had to put my hood prop on it, which makes me a little sad, as you guys know. We'll have to deal with it. If that's the worst thing that happens today, a bad hood shock, that's a good day. Nothing noticeable. There's no major issues going on. It's not setting any codes. I did feel that slight rough, like I told you guys. So I think what I'll do is I'll pop the engine cover off of this thing and take a look around, see if there's maybe a crack in a PCV hose or something unusual like that. Maybe an induction service might help. It's very strange that there's no codes. So that's going to be the hard part, figuring it out. I did feel it. So it's going to be interesting trying to sort through it. Let's get a look under the hood. Well, I think I see a problem. That is no good. When I first took it apart, I noticed a little bit of an issue, but can you guys spot it? You can see it right now, depending on if you look in the right place or not. Fuel trims are pretty decent though, but there is a slight correction on one bank compared to the other, which you wouldn't expect with the problem I'm looking at right now. But sometimes a slight issue will show up on one bank more than another. You could have an intake manifold gasket leaking a little bit. You could have the hose off on your breather. So that's going to allow unmetered air to go into the engine. And that's definitely going to cause a problem. And now we'll see if that changes the fuel trims a little bit. Short-term trims should always be changing, although now it looks like it's definitely doing a little something different. Remember, one bank was different than the other? Well, now they're both switching back negative, positive, just covering that up because there's no unmetered air being drawn in. It's all going through the mass airflow sensor. If this car was map sensor, then that little breather thing probably wouldn't matter much. It would matter much less, I should say. But with it being a mass airflow, it wants to see all the air coming past the sensor, and that air wasn't. I'm going to clear the fuel trims, shut it off, let it cool a little bit, see how it runs cold, because it was noticeably shaking when it was cold, probably because of that. Excellent. I think that's going to probably fix it. Maybe I'll have them order this, because I don't think it should separate that easy. Someone probably messed with it with the engine cover, did an oil change or something, I'm not sure, but who knows. All I can tell you is it wasn't connected. Let me see if they want to replace it. Maybe it's coming apart on its own. Purge valve's good. I'm going to reset the fuel trim before I go up front real quick, just to make sure there's nothing else going on. Just that easy. You don't have to shut the engine off or anything, see? I put a tie wrap on there too, in case it's something I have to order. It might take a little while to get, but it only goes in there about 1/4 of an inch, and I think that's definitely a factor. I'm going to try taking a little drive and then see where the fuel trims are after that, and we'll see what's next. The short-term trims are definitely better. Uh-oh. Your seater light dormant. They don't want you to know what the part number was, only what it is now. They approved the tune-up, actuator, filters, and wipers, and TPMS sensors. Let's try to get this done today. What do you say? Get this glove box out, determine if it's the right temp actuator or the recirc actuator. They're right next to each other, and I couldn't tell feeling with my hand which one, but I knew it was one of them. And they're the same part number, and it's dormant anyway, so it's going to be doing it again in a few weeks. I hope not. But should be pretty quick and easy. I think it's like 0.8 of an hour. Pop the glove box out. Should be right behind it. Tune-ups after that. Alright, should be all 7mm, I believe. All wood screws, all 7mm. Oh, I hear it. It just starts on its own with the key off. Like it does a forced reset after a certain amount of time. So if it stops by the time I get the glove box out, I'll just turn the key on again and off again. And it should start doing it in a minute or two. That's the plan. Stan, get on the bus, Gus. No need to be coy, Roy. Just set yourself free. Oh my That was easy. This folds in. Oh my goodness gracious, that's pretty tough. There you go. There you go. Oh, you guys fell down, man. I didn't do it that time. It wasn't me. You guys just fell on your own. You ought to stop drinking. Stop drinking on the job. Oh yeah. Recirc. You keep on going, you son of a gun, you. Oh, that's nice. All right, let me pop it in there real quick. I think it's a little Phillips. This back screw is a little bit of what you'd call a booger in the business. That's what we call it. It's a booger screw. It's kind of the color of a booger, and it's in a tight spot. I'll show you the tool I had to use to get it out of there. Labor guys got it at like 0.6 or something, so yeah, I guess that's why they call it a guide, as someone said in my comments. That's why it's a guide, and that is true. Look at that. A cute little ratchet. That's the one I got from my dad from my birthday. Goodness gracious, the last half a turn, it's not going to let me turn it by hand. Plastic is tight. It's just a wood screw. Now, of course, you got to check the door and all too. You know, when actuators are the problem most of the time, but there are rare occasions when they're not. Oh, like Dodge trucks, they like to break the recirc doors, so you got to be careful. You have to sell it honestly. You know, when you talk to the customer, you got to go, look, it's probably that actuator, but until I get in there and pull it off and check the door, I can't be 100% sure. You could just sell them tear down diagnostic time to be certain ahead of time, and then sell them what they need while you have it all apart. Let's see if that's the same. I think that's going to work. Slightly different, but the same. That'll work. Nice. Doors working good. Everyone's coming to the party. We're going to have some fun. If you pay your Pandora subscription, you know, you won't have to hear hemorrhoid commercials. At least that's what the commercial says. Don't you find it ironic? Maybe it's just me, you guys tell me. But like Pandora has a commercial where they talk about hemorrhoids to make you buy commercial-free advertising so you don't hear ads about hemorrhoids. But the only one talking about it is them. I just don't want to pay $5 a month for music, which my whole life it's been free. Now you're supposed to pay for it. I don't know how it was free before and they did okay. Now I gotta find there's a flat spot in here, and then I'll be able to get this on in the same correct position. Okay, that's it. And it'll relearn when you put it all back together. You gotta tell it to relearn actuator positions. Some vehicles you can just pull the HVAC fuse and put it back in and it'll relearn. Some vehicles do it every time you start them up. So I'm gonna go in with my scanner just to make sure that it's relearned so there's no problems down the road. All right, let me pop these screws in here, get this back together. We're moving on to the next thing. Bigger and better. All right, screws are in. Connectors on. Well, that's interesting. What does that go to? Let's see where that one goes. I know this one goes to the glove box. Where does that one go? All right, I'm gonna look around, see where that goes, and we'll move on to the next thing, probably under the hood. I'm so worried about getting this car done, trying to get it done today. It's not gonna happen already. I'm already running a little late, but that's where that connector goes. You know, slow down, take it easy, take a deep breath. Everything back where it goes. Oh, that's nice. That's where they put the cabin filter. Oh, original. That's terrible news. Oh man, this thing's gonna even smell like a new car inside. Morning, I'm probably gonna be working on that one first. You never know, it depends if they have appointments and stuff like that. I'll find out about those in the morning. So let's get a little light on in here, what do you say? So I appreciate you guys watching today's video. A little bit of trials and tribulations, but overall a pretty good day really. Started off a little slow, but we managed to get quite a few things done. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed having you here. I hope you'll torque the like button for me. It really helps the channel out a lot. Maybe check out the Amazon store. Some people were telling me, you don't mention it enough. I didn't know you had an Amazon store. So it's down in the description below every video. The link is working, everything. I checked it out the other day. It's all working good. So I appreciate that support, and I hope I see you guys in the next video, because you're awesome.